Hey, everybody. This weekend, our 2 weeks from now training are going to be a two-part series. So we're going to do the 10 steps of selling in retail. So there's no quiz this week, but I'll give you guys the first 5 steps and a breakdown here. And then the next video will be the second 5 steps, and you'll have a quiz with that video. I found this article. It was talking about this 10 steps to selling in retail, and I just really thought it aligned so perfectly with what we suggest as our best tips for selling process in all the stores. And I wanted to be able to cover this with you guys. So the first step is greeting your customer. We talk a lot about greeting, but this one, I think it just kind of broke it down where, obviously it's your first impression, but a warm greeting can show that you value your customer. And I think right now in our selling climate, I think that's a big piece that we need to make sure we're conveying. So not necessarily just greeting with a, how can I help you type of message, but really just welcoming them into the store, seeing, what's going on in their day to day, and setting that first impression off well will get us so much further than what we've been doing so far. Step 2 is knowing your products well. There's been some changes with the last couple markets. So just making sure that when you get new product on the floor, you guys can review it. If there are any products or product categories that you feel like you need more training on, please don't hesitate to let me know. We can include it in one of these bi-weekly trainings, or I can come out to your store next time I'm there and try and cover that with you. I do want to make sure you guys have all the access to that. But a lot of times being able to showcase your product knowledge, not just the technical part of it, but how it's been used and what other customers have used it for, can really show your experience. It gives your customers more confidence to buy from you, especially with more and more information being online. I think that the depth of knowledge that you have really can showcase well and make your customer want to buy from you in store versus the online competition. Step 3 is to provide product testing. So obviously it's a furniture store. There's lots of things you can sit down. I know making sure you guys kind of lock down some of the pieces on the floor, power mechanisms, things like that, that maybe you don't have as many of, are going to be critical in the coming months. And then the hardest part are some of the catalog categories. So bedroom and dining, obviously we don't have as much on the floor, but what do you have in your store? How can you get as close as possible to having people try it without physically having that full group on the floor for them? And that's going to be the biggest thing in product testing that you'll have to tweak and kind of learn and hone that skill. We have rugs on the floor. Obviously, all the accessories are there to be able to look at. And you have the dining collections in some of the stores. But what table groups do you have that you can show construction of a dresser? And then if we don't have a vignette on the floor, what do you have that's close? Do you have a chair? Do you have, a love seat, a single piece, something like that, so they can still try as close as possible to it. And then number 4 is active listening. I think sometimes we get into a rhythm, and a lot of times in your store, your customers are asking the same questions. And so we tend to almost prepare too soon for the questions that are coming versus listening to what your customer is saying in the moment. You're trying to make sure that you remind them about this feature, or make sure that you offer, this service at the right time. And so making sure that we're listening and responding appropriately to whatever they're actually saying. Sometimes there's hidden meaning in those things. You can read between the lines and see what their actual objections are, to be able to overcome those later in the sale. And again, it just makes your customer feel more like a person, not a number, as though we're trying to reach a certain sales quota with them. And then step number 5 is selling by asking questions. I know for those of you that have been through the in-home trainings with me, I talk about this a lot. But asking one good question sometimes can persuade a customer to share all of the information that you really need to be able to help them best. And then also asking questions to help uncover what what their real need is. Sometimes they'll say they need one thing, but as you ask more questions, you find out that what they actually need is something else, and maybe they didn't know that item existed, or they didn't know what it was called, and so they didn't know how to ask for it. A lot of times, this will help you to handle other objections that would prevent a close of a sale. And so just kind of honing that skill of asking good questions. And then, like I said, so this is going to be the end of this video. You guys just have this to watch. It's pretty simple this week, a little bit shorter. And then your next segment will be the other 5 steps, and you'll have a quiz with that video.